They laughed at the janitor for sweeping floors until his daughter's sketch saved the city. The tears wouldn't stop falling as Marcus Chen watched his 8-year-old daughter Lucy carefully tape another one of her drawings to the refrigerator. This one showed a man in blue overalls holding a mop, standing proudly next to a little girl with pigtails. At the bottom, in her crooked handwriting, she had written, "My daddy, my hero." If only the world could see what Lucy saw. For 3 years, Marcus had pushed his mop through the gleaming halls of Meridian Tower, Chicago's most prestigious architectural firm. Every morning at 5 a.m., he'd slip through the service entrance while the city slept, his soft-soled shoes making whispered promises against marble floors. By the time the architects, engineers, and executives arrived with their tailored suits and designer coffee, Marcus had already erased every trace of yesterday's ambitions from their workspace. They walked past him like he was furniture. Worse, furniture at least got noticed when it was out of place. "Excuse me," they'd say, not looking up from their phones as they stepped around his cleaning cart. The younger associates would snicker when he accidentally knocked over a pencil holder or took too long mopping near their desks. Senior partner Bradley Thornton made it a sport, deliberately dropping crumpled papers just after Marcus had cleaned a section, then pointing it out to his colleagues with theatrical exasperation. "Some people just don't take pride in their work," Thornton would announce loudly enough for Marcus to hear. Marcus would simply nod, pick up the papers, and continue cleaning. He had Lucy to think about. Lucy, whose mother had died in a car accident when she was 3, leaving Marcus to navigate parenthood alone on a janitor's salary. Lucy, who never once complained about their cramped one-bedroom apartment or the fact that her clothes came from thrift stores. Lucy, who greeted him every evening with a smile bright enough to power half of Chicago. What the architects didn't know was that Marcus Chen held a master's degree in structural engineering from Northwestern University. Before Lucy was born, he'd worked for a respected firm in San Francisco, designing bridges that connected communities and buildings that reached toward dreams. But when his wife died and medical bills mounted, he'd sold everything and moved to Chicago for a fresh start. The engineering market was saturated, and with a toddler to care for, he needed immediate income. The custodial job at Meridian Tower was supposed to be temporary. 3 years later, temporary had become permanent. But Lucy never knew her father was anything other than exactly what he chose to be. Every night, while Lucy drew her pictures at their tiny kitchen table, Marcus would help with her homework. When she struggled with math, he'd create elaborate word problems using her favorite cartoon characters. When she needed to understand science concepts, he'd build models from cardboard and bottle caps, transforming their apartment into a laboratory of wonder. "Daddy, why do you always know everything?" Lucy asked one evening, looking up from a drawing of what appeared to be a very tall building. Marcus smiled, ruffling her hair. "I don't know everything, sweetheart. I just pay attention." That particular drawing caught his eye. Unlike her usual stick figures in rainbow houses, this one showed remarkable detail for an 8-year-old. She'd drawn a skyscraper with careful attention to proportions, with small figures visible through the windows and intricate patterns on the facade. "That's beautiful, Lucy." "What building is this?" "It's where you work, Daddy. I drew it from memory when you took me there that one Saturday." She pointed to a small figure at the base of the building. "That's you, keeping everyone safe." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He'd brought Lucy to the office once on a weekend when his usual babysitter was sick, thinking the building would be empty. She'd been fascinated by everything of the elevators, the view from the 40th floor, the way her voice echoed in the marble lobby. The next morning, Marcus arrived at work to find the building buzzing with unusual tension. Groups of architects and engineers clustered around computer screens, their faces creased with worry. He caught fragments of conversation as he emptied trash cans and wiped down surfaces. "The stress analysis doesn't add up. If we're wrong about the foundation calculations, the city inspection is tomorrow. If they find structural issues." By lunchtime, Marcus understood the crisis. Meridian Tower was facing its biggest challenge in decades. A routine inspection had uncovered potential issues with their newest project, the Harmony Community Center, a 15-story building designed to house a public library, community college satellite campus, and affordable housing units. The building was 90% complete, representing millions in investment and hopes for revitalizing Chicago's struggling South Side. But something was wrong with the load-bearing calculations. The more the team analyzed, the more concerned they became that the building might not be able to safely support its intended use. If they couldn't prove structural integrity by tomorrow's inspection, the entire project would be scrapped. The community that had waited 5 years for this development would lose everything. Marcus watched Bradley Thornton pace the conference room like a caged animal, barking orders at subordinates who scrambled between blueprints and computer models. The same man who had treated Marcus with contempt for 3 years now looked desperate enough to accept help from anyone. That evening, Marcus spread Lucy's drawings across their kitchen table while she slept. Her sketch of Meridian Tower sat among them, but he found himself studying her other architectural drawings of buildings she'd imagined. Structures that existed only in her 8-year-old mind but showed an intuitive understanding of balance, proportion, and design that took most people years to develop. Then he saw it. Lucy had drawn the Harmony Community Center too, though he'd never shown her those blueprints. But somehow, through their conversations about shapes and structures, through his explanations of how buildings stand up against wind and weather, she had absorbed principles that now seemed crucial. In her child's drawing, she had instinctively placed support beams in locations the architects had missed. Her innocent sketch showed load distribution patterns that could solve the very problem that had Meridian Tower's best minds stumped. Marcus stared at the drawing until his eyes blurred. Then he looked at his daughter, sleeping peacefully in the next room, and made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Marcus arrived at work an hour early. Instead of heading to the custodial supply closet, he took the elevator to the 40th floor and knocked on Bradley Thornton's office door. Thornton looked up with irritation. "Maintenance issues can wait. We have an emergency." "Mr. Thornton," Marcus interrupted quietly, "I think I can help with the Harmony Community Center." Thornton's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "I'm sure you can, Chen. Maybe you can mop away our structural engineering problems." Marcus pulled out Lucy's drawing and spread it on Thornton's desk. "This is a sketch my daughter made. She's 8 years old, but she has an intuitive understanding of load distribution. Look at where she placed these support elements." For a moment, Thornton stared at the paper as if Marcus had lost his mind. Then his expression slowly changed as he began to see what Marcus saw. "This is..." Thornton's voice trailed off. He grabbed his phone and called the engineering team. "Get up here now. Bring the Harmony blueprints." Within an hour, Marcus found himself standing in the conference room he'd cleaned hundreds of times but never entered as anything other than invisible staff. 20 of the city's top architectural minds listened as he explained Lucy's intuitive approach to structural support, translated her child's drawing into engineering principles, and proposed solutions that none of them had considered. The room fell silent when he finished. Then Maria Rodriguez, the senior structural engineer, spoke up. "This could actually work." The load redistribution pattern up. "It's brilliant in its simplicity." "Who are you?" Thornton asked quietly. Marcus met his eyes steadily. "I'm the janitor. I'm also a father. And I used to be a structural engineer before life took me in a different direction." The inspection passed. The Harmony Community Center became a model for innovative structural design, eventually winning several architectural awards. But more importantly, it opened its doors to serve the community that had waited so long for hope. Bradley Thornton offered Marcus a position as senior structural engineer that same week. Marcus accepted, but asked for one condition: he wanted to continue working some custodial shifts, because he'd learned that seeing a building from every angle from the ground up made him a better engineer. On the day Marcus moved to his new office, Lucy visited to help him set up his desk. She carefully taped her drawing of the Harmony Community Center to his computer monitor, then looked around at the view of Chicago stretching beyond the windows. "Daddy," she said, "I always knew you were more than just someone who cleaned floors." Marcus knelt down to her level, thinking of all the times he'd wondered if he was enough, if his choices had limited her possibilities, if the world's dismissal of his worth had somehow diminished what he could offer her. "Lucy," he said, I was never just anything, and neither are you. Sometimes the most important work we do is the work that nobody says, the daily choice to keep going, to take care of the people we love, to pay attention to the world around us even when the world doesn't seem to notice us back." She hugged him tight, and in that moment, Marcus realized that he had never needed the world's recognition to be the father Lucy deserved. But he was grateful that her innocent wisdom had reminded an entire building full of brilliant people that genius can sweep floors, that dignity isn't determined by job titles, and that sometimes the smallest voice, even one that speaks only through crayon drawings, can solve the biggest problems. The plaque in the Harmony Community Center's lobby reads, "Dedicated to Lucy Chen, whose childlike wonder reminded us that the best solutions often come from seeing the world with fresh eyes." But Lucy's favorite recognition is simpler. Every morning, her father still helps her with homework at their kitchen table, now covered with both her drawings and his architectural plans, proving that the most important blueprints are the ones we create together, one careful line at a time.